Religious fanaticism. People think it's bad, but I think it's just a bad case of stigmatization. You see a cult, I see community. You see wealth hoarding, I see fiscal responsibility. You see the violent massacre of non-believers, so do I. Today I'm going to take this settlement from nothing to a state that can take on the Unholy Horde, a crisis that will level whole cities and champion shameful ideas like religious tolerance. This is Norland, a colony sim with a focus on individual characters. For example, this man is currently being cucked, and this man is being attacked in the streets by vagabonds, whilst being cucked. We directly control lords and try to convince them to not be depressed as they fight for their lives because I have failed to solve unemployment. And I can do this by using innovations like confession and hard drugs. Our leader is Holy Man, the founder of our cult, the Holy Flame. He is beautiful, but also balding, and if anyone brings it up, he's liable to burn them alive. The plan is to systematically convert every citizen we get to fanaticism. That way they won't complain when we send them to their inevitable deaths. In fact, they'll thank us for it. The Unholy Horde will randomly attack cities and burn them to the ground as they creep ever closer towards our borders. We can't just wait them out either. If they remain unchecked by day 60, we will automatically lose this entire video. We need to create a functional state, dominate our neighbours, and become strong enough to challenge them before then. So let's see which of the religious cults wins out in Norland. This is going to be our home until the Horde burns it down or we overcome the crisis. It's not much to look at. That's it, it's really not much to look at. Our settlement starts with 7 cultists and Holy Man himself, along with 3,000 gold he got from generous donations to the cause. To begin, we first get a logging camp to get wood, then fields for food, and finally a library to research more technologies. Whilst the peasants are hard at work, our king begins to divine with bones to see if he'll get his hair back. It doesn't bode well. Our people are homeless, but by placing homes next to the king, they both have somewhere to sleep and are further indoctrinated. And we're gonna need that indoctrination where we're going. Now that we're not immediately going to die of starvation or the cold, we can focus on important matters, like prayer. We want to build an altar, but we can only do that by unlocking the technology. In Norland, new technologies are unlocked by reading books in a library, which only one of the lords can do. New books can only be bought from the Holy Caravan, who only show up if you've been a faithful good little boy, which Holy Man is. Right on cue, these traders arrive and we buy some willing recruits from them. They begin as prisoners, but we immediately free them and bring them into the cult, where they won't be allowed to leave and have to do everything we tell them, but it's technically of their own free will. Look, we're the good guys, even the criminals will be free because I forgive them. I also need someone to build an extension on the hall, but mostly the forgiveness thing. After a day of research, we figure out what an altar is and immediately set to building one. As it begins to take shape, however, something odd happens. What is going on? Give me my mouse back, what is this? If you want proof of the divine, look at that. Clearly the forces of the Unholy Horde have taken control of my mouse, are stopping me from playing the game and are forcing me to focus on the pagan shrines. Ah! It's happening again, stop! Why are you doing this? Okay, sure, okay, we got up here, now what? Well done game, now what? Stop. It definitely wasn't because I dropped my Xbox controller on the floor and didn't figure it out for 40 minutes. The next time the Holy Caravan shows up, they have more technology to offer. For example, moonshine, which we're going to need to distract the peasants from their miserable lives. It's not alcoholism if it's a government-mandated program.
I'll box you right off.
More importantly, they're selling books on workshops, which we need to make planks. Like any colony sim, Norland's gameplay loop is one of making increasingly complex supply chains, which we're going to need if we're to produce the weapons needed to combat the Unholy Horde, who have just started to form on the other side of the continent. And trust me, they'll be here soon. For now though, we need to direct our peasants. Each building has a certain amount of workers we can assign and needs a manager. These can only be lords, and seeing as we only have one, our king has to personally visit each place to give his instructions, and given the size of the man, it takes a while, especially when he has other things on his mind. This highlights how lonely Holy Man is, but we're not the only settlement populating Norland. As we hit our first settlement level, thanks to our increasing population size, the world begins to open up. We border Cutaline and Laith, and there are a whole host of affairs we can engage them in. For example, trade, alliances, kidnapping their loved ones to have a hostage, or spending quality time together. They each have their own royal families. For example, in Laith we have Nebmez, who is described as a blinder, and a brother who is... I think I know where the epithet came from. My grand plan is to make money by selling planks to Laith, so we get to work putting down a saw shed. Back at the hall, a minstrel called Hamfast walks in, who I pay to convert the people to religious fanaticism. He does so well that now 55% of our people are described as fanatics and will gladly die for the cause. And they will. It's on day 5 that the Unholy Horde destroys its first house, and we are officially on the clock. At any point they can attack us directly, and if we don't finish them off by day 60, everything is lost. We're expanding steadily at this point, but something has come to my attention. Holy Man is an idiot. I'm not just saying that to be mean, his intelligence is really low, and we are limited in technology by how fast he can read books, and he's the kind of person to sound vowels out loud. It's time to get some help, and right on cue, Laurelus walks in. He's a free lord that's visiting our settlement that we can hire on a 10-day contract, and maybe even induct him into our family directly. We hire him, and he immediately becomes depressed upon realizing what he's wandered into. And I don't blame him. I build him a house to call his own, and set him to work. Juna from the city of Sophia calls on us as a guest, and after a quick jam session, our king is infatuated with the lustful silver-tongued pragmatist. Holy Man begins the courtship traditionally by giving her a lot of money. After losing to her in a game of dice and impressing her by showing her how many trees we've cut down, he shoots his shot. They appear to be going back to the hall together, but then Juna turns and sprints for home. Chin up, buddy. We really need to hire another lord, but when Cyrilla turns up, we just can't afford her. If only we hadn't given money to a visiting noble who, by the way, has disappeared off the face of the earth because she's not in Sophia. I'm pretty sure we've been catfished. Whilst that whole saga was going on, Laurelus was running the place, and there's been a development. This bandit camp will continue to grow unchecked in size unless we take it out. Given we have no money, I resort to hiring some mercenaries. This puts us in a pretty bad financial spot, and we have to fill out the rest of the space with some willing volunteers. Newly drafted peasants get the "I'm going to die, I'm not a warrior" mentality, which, whilst true, will go away after 5 days or if they're fanatics. You can see why I really want to indoctrinate the entire populace. Building a squad under Laurelus' command, we head to the bandit camp. After a few hours, they arrive to attack the bandits, and the battle commences. As we rush in, our peasants immediately surrender without seeing any combat, leaving us outnumbered 4-3. The combat is fierce, but our professional mercenaries then panic and surrender, leaving Laurelus alone against 4. But what you need to know about Laurelus is that he's got that dog in him. Laurelus is on his own! Do it, son! He's doing it on his own! Go on, Laurelus! Boom! Everyone else has surrendered but that man! He's done it himself! What a legend! The Unholy Horde has just killed another house and is making their way towards us, so we need to kick it up a gear. Whilst Laurelus is away, a fugitive known as Ladosvet turns up at our hall. Ladosvet clearly has some sort of split personality disorder because, as he's seeking asylum from us, he hands us a letter telling us to drive him away immediately, and it's signed by Ladosvet. Clearly this man is a paranoid schizophrenic, and that's exactly the kind of thing we need in our cult. I'm sure this will not go wrong. When Laurelus returns from the bandit camp, he brings with him gold, as well as prisoners, who will be held in here, next to the religious iconography, until they repent. However, it seems that one of the bandits managed to escape, and is attempting to assassinate Laurelus for what he did. A desperate fight breaks out, but Laurelus disarms the man. Whilst he was fighting for his life, our ruler was a bit preoccupied. Really? Right in front of the altar? I mean, I guess he wouldn't be a cult leader if he wasn't a hypocrite. On the next day, our ruler receives word from neighbouring Cutaline that there's going to be an uprising. If a lord is dissatisfied, they may attempt a military rebellion, which, if it happens in our neighbours, we can intervene in. Given that we still have these mercenaries on contract, I decide to give Ladosvet a chance to prove himself by gearing him up and sending him out. It wasn't really a fight, as the enemy king was the only combatant, but now he's dead and Lutrad is king and owes us a favour. We can now use this debt to compel him to do something for us. For example, we can demand his vassalization. However, there is a problem. Leto has formed an alliance of which Cutaline is a part, meaning we can't make demands without going to war with the alliance. Given that the Unholy Horde's expansion is accelerating with another city dead, joining later on might not be a bad idea, so we send our king to cozy up to Letos. As we have finally researched the history of the church, we begin our relationship with the loving family. No, that's not some sort of incest thing, that's the religious authority of the land. Usually you only get assigned a bishop when you hit a certain population size, but thanks to our diligence and faith, we get one early. This is Korash, and he is going to be our spiritual guide, and we're going to need it as the harsh season rolls in. During this period, no food will grow, everything is wet and rainy, and we have to rely on our stockpiles. But don't worry, Korash is hosting a sermon of faith, and is convincing the people that those feelings of hunger aren't real. That's not a mechanic in the game, that's just my personal cognitive dissonance. It doesn't work on Ladosvet, who becomes depressed, but he does solve this depression by having a nervous breakdown. He has to be carried to bed and has a strong desire to confess his sins. After this, he becomes devout, and a lunatic, which frankly is exactly what we need going forwards. A gift of gold helps his mood, and he strikes up a friendship with the bishop, going out hunting together. He also finds new passions, such as becoming a politician, which I'm sure is a completely healthy obsession for a lunatic. Meanwhile, the Unholy Horde are creeping ever closer with another city set aflame. We need more bodies, but given that we have 3 male lords and no queen, we can't exactly produce them. Fortunately, Callan has an eligible bachelorette ready to go. This is Benura. She's a master adulterer, but also monogamous. I'm not really sure how that works. Almost immediately after getting married, she becomes pregnant, so maybe that's how it works. The settlement is getting bigger as we hit 40 population and a new settlement level. We now have tool production, which is made through planks and the iron mine we have going. This is the next step in our production chain, which we desperately need because remember that plan to sell planks to Letos? That was a while ago. We've all moved on since then, but my production has not. Still, this sets us up nicely to begin to create more industry and develop further, securing the knowledge for a Fletcher's workshop, an alchemy lab, and a paper workshop. The problem right now is our physical expansion. There are flesh walls roaming around, which means that the new buildings and the people on the peripheries are constantly getting attacked. To counter this, I assemble a squad under Laurelus and direct them to attack all the flesh walls. I'm sure this won't come back to haunt me. Now they're gone, we have the space to move the town around a little bit. We have a new temple that needs to be the centerpiece of the town, and the houses have to be a bit closer to their places of work, as it's taking a few hours of travel time that should be spent working. It's like if your boss moved your house next to your office so that he can cut down on the commute time and call you in earlier. To help manage this, we hire Gunnar, who immediately becomes depressed upon us hiring him, which feels par for the course at this point. Another new arrival is a guest, Belka, who is a princess from Latos. As a lustful schemer, she sets to work entrapping Laurelus through the aphrodisiac known as wolf hunting. Now, our own schemer, Benura, might have been able to keep watch if she wasn't giving birth to the largest human I've ever seen. Oh my god. Child's born. Small child. I don't think so. That's a pretty large child. As such, she's not around to stop Laurelus from going on a date with Belka, which has some knock-on effects. I can't prove that Ladosvet sent these men to break into Laurelus' house, but the royal couple also engage in another aphrodisiac known as double-tapping a surrendered combatant. Belka ends up puppeting Laurelus after seducing him, firmly driving a wedge between Ladosvet and Laurelus that will last forever. After some time, we enter into the coal era, by which I mean we're producing coal now. To give you an idea of what we're going for, wood from a logging camp goes into a saw shed to be turned into firewood, which is then transformed into coal here, which can be used to make steel and then to make swords and heavy armor. We're just at the coal phase right now, so around halfway through the production chains that we desperately need. We'll also need medical salves and berry infusions, but that's a whole other production line. After crossing 50 population, we increase our settlement level further, mostly through the purchase of slaves. I mean, fresh converts. Wait, this is our religious authority selling the slaves. I don't have to sugarcoat it or try and hide behind things. I, Laith, of this YouTube channel, formally endorse the practice of slavery. In the meantime, the Unholy Horde, who are touting ideals such as freedom, are just a few provinces away, having burnt down yet another house. They are expanding way faster than I thought they would. And to make life even trickier, this new settlement level means we're going to lose the matriarch's protection. You see, up until this point, we've been too small for other nations to be allowed to engage us in any sort of violent machinations. But that all changes. It's time to put into place Laith's plan of, I really don't want to die, please don't kill me. The title is a work in progress. We request to join the Latos Alliance, which they accept. There are some clear benefits, for example free trade and increased market demand, as well as the obvious protection. But the downside is that we are technically subservient to someone else, as well as the fact we are forced to remain neutral. We'll see about that. For now though, a city on the border has just been burned to the ground, so a great time to join. I actually think this was an offshoot of the Unholy Horde, not the main Horde army, so a clear warning sign. This rattles our people, but I have a cunning ploy. Alcoholism. I've set up a brewery which turns these weird turnip things into moonshine. I can then set up an order to forcibly deliver it to every single peasant in the city, and then sell them the excess. Thus, we're using the profits from the war on drugs to win the war on... Are we the CIA? Speaking of corrupt bureaucracies, I've just unlocked chancelleries. These buildings can act as managers for the other buildings, meaning that now we're starting to sprawl out. Each individual lord doesn't have to just spend their days sprinting around from building to building. This leaves them free to do important things, like this gives us a boom in population, which then allows us to hit another settlement cap, which allows for us to get disasters. New settlement levels really suck. One advantage to this is that we now are bigger than Latos, who want to secure our alliance through marriage. Marriage to none other than Belka. After years of devoted service, we adopt Laurelus into the family and send him to pick up his bride. Hopefully she's not like Benura, who is upset that she hasn't received any gold, even though she personally has triple our settlement's GDP. Laurelus and Belka get married, and Belka actually ends up falling in love with Laurelus, which one person is not happy about. And I mean, not happy. Strengthening his case is that Ladosvet is a natural leader of men, and for example, when there is a bandit camp of 9 people, there's only 1 man for the job. He also does not tolerate insubordination, as one of the warriors we've drafted, who used to be a peasant, tries to escape, he cuts him down himself. By the time the squad has assembled, the number of total bandits has hit 12. Under the peppering of arrows, we assault the archery tower, and in the melee that follows, it's Benura, Belka, Ladosvet, and Ken that have to carry the day. Ken is a lord that we've hired just to study. That's all he's there for. In this clash, feats are achieved and names handed out. Benura becomes the fearsome fist, as her weapon broke and she resorted to just using her hands, whereas Belka becomes strong blow, which feels disrespectful given she's genuinely our most powerful warrior. 4 lay dead, but we do win the day. Meanwhile, the Unholy Horde has killed multiple provinces and are getting stronger as a result, so it's going to be a climactic final battle. In anticipation, we set up a new area on the map, with armor forges, 2 barracks, and a training ground, headed by Ladosvet. I've created a second residential area away from the main area, because I needed to put down things like pig farms and armory forges which need people nearby, but I don't want all that nastiness near the main residential area, and I'm just now realizing I've created a ghetto. Nothing shows this juxtaposition better, as whilst our rulers are refusing to date because they can't decide on what the minstrel should play that night, in the other section of the town, people are having more pressing issues. He's fighting by his hand! Go, do him in! Oh god, no, come on! God, he's bleeding. His face is hurt. You got this, buddy! Oh. Now that our alchemy labs are finally up and running, we can engage in some trade. Turnout will give us an obscene amount of money each day, provided we keep the medical sales coming. And later on, we're going to be selling ale and hard drugs. We're also selling on our internal market, making as much money as possible, which is going to be important as we're going to need mercenaries for what's to come. The King of Letos has expelled Cutaline from the Alliance, and is planning military offensive action against him, something he's expecting us to join in on. This puts us in a bit of an awkward situation, because the King of Cutaline owes us a debt of obligation, if you remember, and we kind of want to vassalize him ourselves. Given that we can now see Unholy Horde armies roaming the map, it's time for us to make a play. I end the treaty with Letos and leave the Alliance, and then I use the obligation owed to us to vassalize Cutaline. And just like that, we're a regional player. Our peace treaty ends with Letos, and King Setaftak uninvites us from his birthday party. A grave escalation. The harsh season will begin again soon, so I make sure we have a good stockpile of food, but our 2 villages close by as well as Cutaline should keep us supplied. But it's not the harsh season that should worry us, as all that wolf killing has finally come around to bite us in the arse. We receive a prophecy that 15 mad flesh wolves are going to be attacking the center of our city. We only get this premonition prophecy thanks to the matriarch liking us. We have a good amount of fanatics in the city, and things like taking care of pilgrims helps us. Thanks to all this, we have been given a head up about the wolves, but it's not looking good. We currently have all of 6 warriors, so we quickly need to train more, meaning more barracks and long stints in the training ground. And in the meantime, we need to thin out some wolves scattered around the place, whilst hopefully mending some bridges between our lords. Even our warriors are training in this way. Yes, I hired a blind man as a warrior. I'm an equal opportunity employer. In anticipation, I trade for more weapons and armor, but it's not long before the wolf invasion begins. 2 packs show up, one in the east and one in the west, so we divide our forces. The king goes west, and Ladosvet goes east. Ladosvet successfully drives the wolves off in the east, but in the west, our king flees his post, leaving 1 warrior behind. Benura! No! Down to the final 2 men in the squad, the wolves are dealt with Ladosvet arriving seconds later. And where were you? We've won, but at the cost of the queen. Her grave tells the story of her life, right up until the final fight. A darkness descends on the town, with each lord dealing with the loss in their own way. The king falls into a deep depression, having a nervous breakdown. His new title, Fast Feet, is a testament to his cowardice and his failure. Our warriors are training with increased fervor, and Ladosvet purges the last of the remaining wolves. And some villagers even join in on this. This saga has highlighted a lot of supply issues that we have. I'm producing shields and maces, but the more elite weapons like swords, as well as heavy armor, is beyond our reach for now. We're going to need actual domestic production instead of just buying from caravans, so I clear out an area and begin work. It being the harsh season means no one is working the fields, so everyone is getting to the forges whether they like it or not, especially now that we have new technologies. As the harsh season ends, the Horde claims another city, but worse than that, Belka is cheating on Lorelis. Pelatos is visiting our city, and it seems Belka is showing him the sights. But the domestic situation only gets worse as our king then falls in love with Belka, pitting him against faithful Lorelis. Lorelis' date night is cancelled because Belka is going on a different date, confirming his status as a cuck. The final development of this ugly saga rears its head as Ladosvet and Belka fall in love with each other. This plants the seeds of disaster as all 3 men start viewing each other as rivals. For now though, I send Ken on a mission to slander Noth to Laithos. I've been repairing our relation with Laithos such that when Ken goes and tells them that Noth is not subscribed to the channel, they believe him, a heinous crime, and immediately break the alliance. As we draw ever closer to Ragnarok, we're going to need to expand. You see, in Norland we can only deal with our immediate neighbours, meaning if we aren't an immediate neighbour of the Unholy Horde by day 60, we will automatically lose because we won't be able to launch an offensive against them. To begin, I demand tribute from Laithos, which they accept at the cost of relations. I then demand more and more again and again, which further hits our relations each time. This sours things to the point where they are officially our enemy, and we can go to war. Given the hostilities and our inherent desire to stay pure from the nasty outsiders, we build a wall. This is our first staging ground if Laithos or the Horde decide to turn up, with archery towers dotted around the place. Before she died, Benura gave birth to 3 children. Timolet, the firstborn son, Zarevna, their daughter, and Danforth, the youngest. I think there may have been another one, but I'm not sure, I can't remember. He might have been killed by a wolf. As children, they've not really done much, but now as Zarevna is of age, we can marry her off to Callan to secure loyalty. This support means it's time for Ladosvet to launch an attack on Laithos. We send him at the head of a delegation to politely ask Laithos if they'd like protection. Protection from whom? From us. It's 20 versus 12, and whereas our men are completely clad in heavy armor, theirs only have light armor. They do have towers and walls, but they have accidentally made them from a flammable material, and down they go. In the melee, Ladosvet himself slays the enemy commander, and we win without a single casualty. A far cry from Laerelis fighting alone as everyone else surrenders. That was definitely killed the prisoner of war there. As we've extended our control, we can now settle new lands. It's with a heavy heart that we say goodbye to Belka and Laerelis as we send them to settle the ruins of a burnt down city. Given all the animosity, I figured this would be a good idea, because it was only a matter of time before someone ended up dead. And they nearly did, as the king sent 2 assassins to take out Cairn. Why? I don't know. Our king is getting old, forgetting what a warehouse is and voting for Brexit. He's been engaging in increasingly erratic behaviour, and whilst I have tried to get him married off, he collapses from exhaustion before he ever makes it out of the settlement. I won't lie, I thought he died here, but it turns out he's just fat. The hell is that? Oh! What? I thought you were dead! What's wrong with you? Are you just sleepy? After an argument with Temelos, his firstborn son, he then sends him off to settle another city. There's no one really left for him to rely on, as even the bishop Korash is dead, having died contented with life. A new bishop is sent, but the king begins to hate him before he's even arrived at the settlement, jealous at his fanaticism. You see, our king has a secret. He's become agnostic. This is dramatically opposed by the fanatically zealous Ladosvet, who is distraught at losing his friend of Korash. This, combined with his surging popularity and complete loyalty from the troops, lead him to challenge for the crown. The king attempts to flee the city, but he just doesn't have it in him anymore, collapsing just outside the city walls. At the stroke of midnight, Ladosvet calls for the support of his troops, and every single one of them answers. In contrast, when they march to the hall, not a single person stands up in defense of the old king, as he's struck down in front of his young son. Just surrender, holy man! Just surrender! Surrender! Soon after, Ladosvet personally takes Gunda to bed and passes away later on in the night. And that is a lesson as to why you should probably listen to a paranoid schizophrenic when they tell you not to trust them. On the bright side, however, in Ladosvet we have a much more capable ruler, with sermons taking place daily to create more fanatics, and he's pretty happy about it. However, with our lords dropping like flies, there's no one left to manage the production chains, so production grinds to a halt. We should have enough stockpiles to deal with the final encounters, but it'll be a close thing. This test will come sooner rather than later, as perhaps sensing weakness, we hear marauders are planning to assault the town. To see off this force, we hire bandits as well as prisoners, who both become fanatically loyal to Ladosvet. We do get support from our vassals, but upon hearing about the death of Holy Man, Laerelis straight up kills himself. Ladosvet begins to mourn his rival, though I'm pretty sure it's less about his death and more that he didn't get to kill him himself. We position 20 men behind the walls as the marauders approach. Arrow fire is exchanged over the walls, but there's a glaring problem. Oh my god, there's a hole in the wall. Okay. Well, that's not good, is it? It looks like someone has been embezzling public funds, as a whole section of the wall just doesn't exist. It's not even a wall, it's a hole. We built a hole. It's a wooden thing. Still, we do see off the marauders, but life is going to get a whole lot harder. Both our vassals of Neomia and Laithos have been attacked at the same time, and if we don't defend them, we'll be cut off from the rest of our lands. In Norland, you have to maintain a contiguous border. If we're cut in half, then we'll be finished off by the marauders. We quickly give Danforth a title and send him with a squad to help his brother in Neomia, and another goes to defend Laithos. In Laithos, the attackers quickly burned down the gate, as we did before. You'd think we'd have done something about that by now. Treacherously, our allies hang back and let us do the fighting here, which is short-lived thanks to our weaponry and archer support. I do like the idea of hitting the enemy at a distance, so for the near-Mia fight, we hang back a bit. These guys are fully armoured, so it doesn't hurt to thin the herd. After a quick fight, Danforth leads his troops to victory, a bit reminiscent of Ladosvet's earlier days. We have just 7 days left to deal with the Horde before it's all over, and they're getting even more bold. To help out, we bring Satora on board, and our large treasury means that when a man comes offering drugs, we can buy them all. What, we're about to send all of our peasants to confront a violent, angry, unholy Horde. You think we're not going to put them on drugs first? Ladosvet still needs to deal with dissenters, but whilst being attacked in his hall, this lunatic takes a chunk off of his opponents and proceeds to eat it in front of him. Now that is a cult leader! There is almost no one left of the old guard of the cult, with all of them being laid to rest in graves north of the city. What, I wasn't going to put them inside the city? That's prime real estate. Satora is sent to settle new lands in Lerwick, and Onfisa is hired to pick up the slack. Someone who Ladosvet immediately falls for. Danforth is then sent to settle the lands next to the Horde, because remember, we cannot assault them without having a direct border, and they shift based on where the last raised province was. This is also a happy compromise, as Danforth hasn't forgiven the whole "I killed your father in front of you and traumatized your life" thing. He successfully settles Ferenuk, and for the first time we lay eyes on the Horde. But there's a problem. Their main army is marching over here to Kenna, and when they arrive, they will devastate the place and move the Horde there. This means we will no longer have a border, and with it being day 57, if we don't do something now, we'll lose. Therefore, we have no choice, and Ladosvet sacrifices his love, sending her to settle the lands next to the Horde so we have a shot at this. Under the command of Ladosvet himself, we gather the biggest army Norland has ever seen. I've been training his warriors non-stop, leading to respectable combat prowess. But we're not just going ourselves. Every vassal we've gained will send some force to join us for the final clash. It will take 2 days to assemble, just about bringing us to day 60, the final day. The banners slowly gather at Ferenuk, where they begin to merge into one huge army and slowly move towards the Unholy Horde, with Danforth ceding control to Ladosvet as they try to carry out his father's dream. It takes a whole day to get there, mostly because, let's face it, Ladosvet is not a small man. He'll never go hungry as a cult leader. The enemy are led by Perellis. They have fewer troops but are much more skilled on average. As we approach, we let the archers shoot from a distance against the lightly armoured enemy. We thin the numbers a bit, but it quickly devolves into a tangle of limbs and a spray of blood. It's not looking good as their troops only seem to gain morale over time and are beginning to even the numbers, but then Danforth falls in battle. Danforth! This sends Ladosvet into a rage and he cuts down those around him. I did tell you he was a lunatic. He managed to take out the enemy squad leaders before he too succumbs to his injuries. This shifts the course of the battle, and finally only Perellis himself remains. In a battle of 130 people, only 20 survive. The Horde is dead and we have won, but our entire line has been wiped out, and so we also lose the game. And that is the story how in Norland we overcame the Unholy Horde and died in the process.